My name is SYAUQINA binti NORDIN, number matric 294542. So I'm just going to summarize our chapter 1, which is the introduction. Buy now pay later services have rapidly gained popularity among university students in Malaysia, but our research only focused particularly at Universiti Utara Malaysia due to their convenience, flexibility and minimal credit requirements, making them attractive for students with limited financial resources. While BNPL allows students to purchase goods and pay in installments and interest-free, it also raises concerns about increased impulse buying, overspending and potential debt accumulation, as students may use BNPL not only for discretionary items but also for essential expenses like food and groceries. Despite its benefit in providing short-term financial relief, but BNPL usage does not typically contribute to building a positive credit history and can introduce stress due to multiple repayment schedules. This study aims to fill the research gap by examining how factors such as frequency of use, marketing exposure, financial literacy, and student perception influence BNPL adoption and spending behavior.
My name is MOHAMAD FARHAN with ROHAIZAD, matric number 294423. Now, I would like to summarize the chapter 2, which is the literature review. This chapter explains the background and past studies related to BNPL, which is buy now pay later, and how it affects student spending behavior. It includes three main categories: consumer theory, which looks at how people make spending choices. The second one is the sociological theory, which focuses on how friends and social group influence behavior, and behavioral theory, which explains how emotions and habits affect financial decisions. Four main factors or variables were discussed in detail, which is BNPL usage frequency, financial literacy, marketing exposure, and perception and future intention. Each factor plays a role in shaping how students use BNPL and how much they spend. For example, students who use BNPL often or see it as a safe and convenient are more likely to spend more. Meanwhile, students with higher financial literacy may be more careful with their spending. This chapter also showed that there are not many studies focusing on Malaysian university students and BNPL. So, this research helps to fill that gap and sets the foundation for the next chapter.
Good day to Dr. Tambiwa. My name is NURIN Nadhirah binti Salihin. Also, my matric number is 294884. So, I will summarize the chapter 3, which is research methodology. On the understudy, a study on the effect buy now pay later BNPL services on spending behavior among UUM students. So this chapter will explain how we did the research step by step to make sure the results are correct, reliable and meaningful. First, we prepare the research framework and then we plan the research design. And this includes the type of study where we got the data, who our respondents and how we selected them. So in this study, we use a quantitative method, which is we collected data by the using questionnaire. And the question were designed to measure a few main things, which is dependent variable and independent variable. So the dependent variable is spending behavior, and the independent variable, which is usage frequency, marketing exposure, financial literacy and student perception and future intentions about BNPL services. So we use a Likert scale in this questionnaire, where the student gave the answer based on how much they agree or disagree with each statement. Several statistical analysis were used to examine the data, which is the technique are divided into 5 main parts, which is descriptive analysis, we use a descriptive statistic, and the validity test, we use a KMO and Bartlett test, and the anti-image matrices, communalities, and also reliability test, we use a reliability statistic, item statistics, and item total statistic. So the inferential analysis, we use a correlation and correlation between dependent variable and independent variable. So the regression analysis, we use a model summary, ANOVA, coefficients, and residual statistic. So this analysis method was chosen to ensure the accuracy, validity and reliability of the chapter 4, which is data analysis and findings. So the purpose of analysis is to explore the relationship between BNPL usage and the spending behavior, and to determine whether the hypothesis can be accepted or rejected. So there are several analyses were used in the study, which is descriptive analysis, validity test, reliability test, inferential analysis, and regression analysis to summarize the basic feature of the data set and then provide an overview of the respondents' characteristics. So for the validity test, we use two types, which is KMO and the Bartlett test of sphericity. So for the KMO the KMO is to measure of sampling adequacy, and the Bartlett test of sphericity used to assess the suitability of data for factors. So next is reliability test. So our group used the Cronbach alpha value. The value of Cronbach alpha is 0.922, which reflects an excellent level of internal consistency. So this means that all the items used in this questionnaire is really work together and are very reliable enough to support further analysis. So next is the inferential analysis. Our group used the Poisson correlation to see the strength and the direction of the relationship between the variables. The results show that the usage frequency, marketing exposure, and the student perception had a strong positive relationship with the spending behavior, with a correlation of 0.838, 0.814, and 0.792. So the financial literacy also had a positive link, but it was slightly weaker, which is 0.961. In short, students who often use BNPL see more advertisement and have a good opinions about it are likely to spend more. Financial knowledge also matters, but not as much as the other three factors.
NORDIN, number metric 294542. So the purpose of this regression analysis is to determine how 4 independent variables, which is BNPL usage frequency, marketing exposure, financial literacy, and perception and future intentions, affect the spending behavior of UM student. For the null hypothesis, there is no significant relationship between the independent variables and the dependent variables. And for the alternative hypothesis, there is a significant relationship between at least one of the independent variables and the dependent variable. As you can see in the ANOVA table, confirms that the regression model is statistically significant, presenting an F value of 140.087 and the P value significant of under 0.01. The F value is calculated as the ratio of the mean regression sum of square to the mean residual sum of squares, and a higher value of indicates a more significant model. The extremely low p-value demonstrates that the likelihood of observing such a strong relationship by chance is exceedingly small. This means that collectively the predictors make a substantial contribution to understanding the variance in spending behavior among UM students. For regression coefficient, BNPL usage frequency emerged as the most influential predictor with a positive and highly significant association with spending behavior. This implies that students who use BNPL services more frequently tend to spend more. Overall financial literacy also shows a significant positive effect on spending behavior, though its impact is less pronounced than that of BNPL's usage frequency. This suggests that students with greater financial literacy are likely to spend more, perhaps because they feel more confident managing their finances and leveraging BNPL services responsibly. Marketing exposure displays a positive and significant effect, indicating that students who are more exposed to BNPL marketing campaign are more likely to increase their spending. Perception and future intention also has a significant positive effect, suggesting that students with more favorable perceptions of BNPL services and stronger intention to use them in the future are more likely to spend more. This result suggests that the students who use BNPL services more frequently and are more frequently exposed to BNPL marketing tend to have a higher spending behavior. Additionally, students with higher financial literacy and more positive perceptions and intentions regarding BNPL also tend to spend. For summary of hypothesis testing, given that all 4 predictors were statistically significant, the null hypothesis is rejected in the favor of the alternative hypothesis. The results confirm that BNPL usage frequency, marketing exposure, financial literacy, and perception and future intentions are significant determinants of spending behavior among UM students. These findings provide empirical support for the theoretical framework underpinning the study and offer important insights into the mechanism through which BNPL services impact consumer behavior in a university context. And now for the last section in chapter 4, chapter summary. This chapter presented a comprehensive analysis of the factors influencing spending behavior among UM students, with a particularly focus on the role of buy now pay later services. The chapter began with a descriptive analysis to summarize the demographic characteristic of the respondent and to provide an overview of the key study variable. This was followed by assessment of validity and reliability to ensure the accuracy and consistency of the measurement instruments. Now for chapter 5, which is discussion and conclusion, this chapter presents a comprehensive discussion and interpretation of the research finding derived from the analysis of the impact of buy now pay later services on spending behavior among UEM students. Building upon the results obtained through descriptive statistic, validity and reliability assessment, and inferential analysis, including multiple regression, this chapter seeks to contextualize the empirical outcomes within the broader framework of existing literature and theoretical perspective. The discussion will critically examine the significance of each independent variables in shaping students' spending behavior.
Now, I would like to present about the summary of findings. Let's start with BNPL usage frequency. This was the strongest predictor in our study. The SPSS result shows a beta value of 0.354 and it was highly significant with a p-value of 0.000. This means that students who use BNPL services more frequently are more likely to spend more, especially on non-essential items. The flexibility to delay payment makes spending feel easier, which can lead to impulsive and repeated usage. Next is financial literacy. Even though it's important, it had the weakest influence on spending behavior. The beta value is 0.134 and the result is still significant at p equals to 0.000. This shows that students who are financially literate might still overspend, possibly because they feel confident in managing debt. But that confidence doesn't always translate into safe financial choice. Now, let's look at marketing exposure. This factor had a beta value of 0.184 with p equals to 0.000. So, the relationship is strong and significant. Students who often see BNPL ads or influencer promotions are more likely to use BNPL and spend more. Marketing makes BNPL seem easy, interest-free and safe, and this encourages more purchases, often without planning. Finally, we examine the perception. This had a beta value of 0.205 and again, it was statistically significant at p equals to 0.000. Students who view BNPL services positively, for example, as convenient or helpful, are more likely to continue using them. That positive perception leads to higher spending and builds a habit of relying on BNPL. Policy recommendations. Our first recommendation is to make financial literacy education compulsory in universities. Together with the Ministry of Higher Education, universities can offer modules that teach students how to budget, manage debt, and understand the risk of BNPL. This helps students become more prepared to make smart financial decisions in today's digital world. Next, we suggest that Bank Negara Malaysia and the Securities Commission create a proper regulatory framework for BNPL providers. This should include the first one is the clear terms and late fees, credit checks before approving users, limits on how much students or new users can spend, and reporting to credit bureaus. This will protect users and prevent overspending or hidden debt. BNPL advertisement should also be more tightly regulated. We recommend that a clear risk warning on every ad, a ban on targeting students or low-income users with misleading promotions, and working with consumer groups to promote safer financial messages. This helps ensure students are missed by marketing tactics. We also encourage partnership between universities and BNPL providers. Together, they can run financially literacy campaign, give students usage reports to track their spending, and even support research to study how BNPL affects students' mental health. This type of collaboration supports both education and also the innovation. Finally, we suggest that universities create early financial warning systems. If students show signs of financial distress, such as taking on multiple debts, the university can offer help like counseling, financial aid, or advice. This kind of support can reduce dropout rates and protect students from falling into long-term debt. Expanding the demographic and institutional scope. Future studies can include more universities, including private colleges and different regions in Malaysia. This helps compare different student groups and make the results more applicable nationwide. The second one is the incorporating qualitative and mixed method approaches. Researchers should consider interviews or focus groups, not just surveys. This will help uncover student emotions, motivations, and personal experience with BNPL. The third one is the conducting longitudinal studies. A long-term study can show how BNPL usage and spending habits change over time, especially as students graduate or face life transitions. The fourth one is the comparing BNPL with other digital financial tools. It would be useful to compare BNPL with tools like e-wallets, credit cards, or personal loans to understand how students choose between them. The fifth one is investigating the impact of policy and regulation. Researchers should also study how new BNPL rules or guidelines from the government affect student usage and awareness. And the last one is the post-graduation financial outcomes. Lastly, future studies could track students after graduation to see if BNPL usage during university affect debt level, savings, or financial wealth in working life. Examine the influence of BNPL usage frequency, financial literacy, marketing exposure, and also the future intention and perception on the spending behavior of UM students. The findings reveal that all four variables had a positive and significant effect on spending, with BNPL usage frequency emerging as the strongest predictor, followed by future intention and perception. The regression model accounted for 83.1% of the variation in student spending behavior, indicating a strong explanatory power. Overall, the study concludes that behavioral and social factors have a greater impact on student spending than financial knowledge alone. Therefore, there is a strong need for enhanced financial education, proper regulation of BNPL services, and early support mechanism to promote responsible financial behavior among students.